Very good morning to all of you. Today we will discuss Newton's third law of motion. Earlier we have discussed Newton's first law of motion and second law of motion. Now first law of motion gives definition of force, whereas second law of motion measures force. It gives a formula that how we can measure force. Now Newton's third law of motion, it states that to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So suppose action and reaction are the forces. Suppose I apply a force on an object, then the object will also apply an equal and opposite force on the first object. Suppose I am applying force on a wall. So I am the first object, I am applying force on wall, wall is second object. So when one object or the first object apply force on second object, the second object, it means wall, also apply equal and opposite force on the first object. Now these are called action and reaction forces. The force exerted by first object on second is action force, and the force exerted by second object on first, that is wall on me, is the reaction force. Now these two forces are always equal in magnitude, but they act in opposite direction. So you write a statement for it. Right, according to Newton's third law of motion, according to Newton's third law of motion, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. There is an equal and opposite reaction. Written? Then write action force. What do you mean by action force? Action force is the force exerted by first object on the second. So write the force exerted by first object on the second, is called action force. Then write reaction force. In reaction force you write the force exerted by second object, on first is called reaction force. Then change the line and write these two forces are always equal in magnitude, but acts in opposite direction. Written? Now to make your concept clear, some examples are given in NCERT book. I want to discuss one two examples. You open page 122. Page 122. And look at figure 9.10. Figure 9.10. Look at this figure. There are two spring balance, isn't it? Now spring balance B is connected with a rigid support. Suppose we have fixed a nail on the wall and the hook of the spring balance B is connected with that nail, and the another hook is connected with the hook of spring balance A, and the another end of the spring balance A has a hook, and that we are pulling it with our fingers. So I am reading this example. Concentrate on book, page 122, left side, second paragraph. Let us consider two spring balances connected together as shown in figure. The fixed end of balance B is attached with a rigid support like a wall. When a force is applied through the free end of the spring balance A, it is observed that both the spring balances show the same readings on their scale. So you are applying force on the hook, or you are just pulling the hook of a spring balance A. So the spring balance B also shows some reading. It is observed that both the spring balances show same readings on their scales. It means that the force exerted by spring balance A on balance B is equal. So what it proves? These two forces are equal. We are applying force on a spring balance A, that is action force. Suppose the reading is 25, and so the reading of spring balance B is also 25. So this shows that these two forces, action and reaction force, are equal in magnitude. It means that the force exerted by spring balance A on balance B is equal but opposite in direction to the force exerted by the balance B on balance A. The force which balance A exert on balance B is called action, and the force of balance B on balance A is called reaction. So what is the action force here? The force which we are applying on the hook of spring balance A is the action force, and as a result the hook of spring balance B exert a force on a spring balance A, that is reaction force. This gives us an alternative statement of the third law of motion, that is, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. However, it must be remembered that the action reaction always act on two different objects. So this is very important point. Although action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude, but they always act on two different objects. For example, in beginning, as I have said, that I am applying a force on the wall, that is action force, and the wall is applying force on me, that is reaction force. So these forces are equal, but they act on two different objects. I am applying force on wall and wall is applying force on me. So these are the two different objects. So you write this line. Write the action and reaction forces always act on two different objects. The action and reaction forces always act on two different objects. Now some more examples. Right side paragraphs, same page. Suppose you are standing at rest and intend to start walking on a road. You must accelerate, and this requires a force in accordance with the second law of motion. Which is this force? Is it the muscular effort you exert on the road? Is it the direction we intend to move? No. You push the road below backwards. The road exerts an equal and opposite reaction force on your feet to make you move forward. So here also, when we are able to walk, because when we intend to move forward, we are applying force on ground with our feet. So the force applied by feet on the ground or on the earth is the action force. As a result, the ground also exerts equal and opposite reaction force on us. As a result, we move forward. It is important to note that even though the action and reaction forces are always equal in magnitude, these forces may not produce acceleration of equal magnitudes. So very important lines. Although action and reaction forces are equal, they are equal in magnitude. If I am applying a force of 50 Newton on wall, the wall is also applying a force of 50 Newton on me. But the acceleration produced by these forces are different. They can produce different acceleration on objects. And why different acceleration? Because it may be possible that the masses of objects are different. Again, giving an example to clear this concept. When we fire a bullet from a gun, we observe that the bullet accelerates with a very high velocity, whereas gun is not accelerating backward with same velocity. So when we press the trigger of the gun exerts a force on the bullet. So this is the action force. And as you know, the mass of bullet is very small, less in comparison to the gun. As a result, the same force produces high acceleration in the bullet. Now the bullet also exerts equal force on the gun, but in comparison to bullet, mass of gun is large, isn't it? As a result, the same force do not produce acceleration of that magnitude in the gun. I think it is clear to you that why the acceleration are produced by the forces are different, because the acceleration produced on the objects depends on their masses. So this line is again very important. You write it. Write down, even though the action and reaction forces are always equal in magnitude, but these forces may not produce acceleration of equal magnitudes. This is because each force acts on a different object. That may have different mass. written. Now we will discuss some of the questions based on it. You open page 126, page 126. Question number 1. Question number 1 is, if action is always equal to reaction, if action is always equal to the reaction, explain how a horse can pull a cart. How a horse can pull a cart. So write the answer for it. Write the various forces. Write the answer. This is page 126. Page 126. Question number 1. Right, the various forces acting on a horse and cart at rest are: first, weight of the cart. First, weight of the cart, which is balanced by the reaction of the ground, which is balanced by the reaction of the ground on the cart. Reaction of the ground on the cart. Full stop. Next sentence you write. The weight of the horse is balanced by the reaction of the ground on the horse. So initially, at rest, all the forces are balanced. So initially at rest, all the forces are balanced. Next you write, when the horse pulled the cart, the horse pushes the ground backward. The horse pushes the ground backward. As a reaction, the ground exert an equal and opposite force. As a result, the ground exert an equal and opposite force. Written? Now the second question. Explain why is it difficult for a fireman to hold a hose which ejects large amount of water at a high velocity. So again, this question is based on Newton's third law of motion, action and reaction forces, or you can say that you are familiar with the term momentum. So on the basis of law of conservation of momentum. So write an answer for it. Second question now. Question number 2. Right, when the water ejects from the hose, with a high velocity, comma, it has high momentum. To conserve momentum, the hose tends to recoil. So it is difficult to handle it. Recoil means the backward force exerted by the object. Now giving a question as a homework that why does a gun recoil when a bullet is fired from it? So write this question as a homework. Why does a gun recoil? It means when you fire a bullet from the gun gives a backward jerk. It applied a force in backward direction. That is called recoiling of gun. Why does a gun recoil when a bullet is fired from it? So this question is homework. More examples are given in your book. You look at the diagram 9.11 on page 122. A forward force on the bullet and recoil of the gun. It is also given. You must go through the paragraph, read it and write a good answer for this question. And then look at another figure, that is 9.12. As the sailor jumps in forward direction, the boat moves backwards. So you can get these questions and give reasons. So must go through it. And next class you must submit your answers. Now I want to discuss some extra numericals which are given in the last page of this chapter, that is on page 130, additional exercises. So this is question number 1 on page 130. The question is, the following is the distance time table of an object in motion, and time and distances are given. When time is 0, it means body is at rest, so distance traveled is also 0, so we can write initially acceleration is 0, and the object is in motion. So after that, so you can use this formula, second equation of motion, ut plus half at square, and since u is 0, so we can write s is equal to at square by 2, and from this expression I have written a is equal to 2s by t square. So we will use this form of the formula to calculate the acceleration. So when time is 1 second, distance is 1 meter. So calculate acceleration. So it will be 2 into 1 by 1 square. So simply 2 meter per second square. Now when time is 2 second, distance is 8. So again use these values to calculate acceleration. So it will be 2 into 8 distance, and time is 2 square, so it will be 16 by 4, so 4 meter per second square. Next, when time is 3 second, distance is 27, so acceleration will be, you can mark this acceleration as a1, a2, a3 like this. So acceleration this time will be 2 into 27 by 3 square, so 54 by 9, so it will be 6 meter per second square. Then when time is 4 second, distance is 64. Again use these values to calculate acceleration. So a4 will be 2 into 64 by 4 square. So it will be how much? 8, 128 by 16. So if you will simplify, you will get 8 meter per second square. In this way, you take the other values, you can calculate up to A7. It is your task to complete it. In this way, you can complete, and you will find what they are asking. What conclusion can you draw about the acceleration? Is it constant? So acceleration is not constant, isn't it? It is increasing uniformly, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 like this. So it is not constant. Increasing, decreasing or 0. So acceleration is increasing. It is clear that acceleration is increasing with time. What do you, now the second B part, what do you infer about the forces acting on the object? So acceleration is increasing. It means which type of forces are acting on the object? Obviously unbalanced forces are acting on the object. So you write, as the acceleration is increasing, so the object is acted upon by unbalanced forces. So the object is acted upon by unbalanced forces. So this is a different type of question. That's why I have solved it, and I think you are able to understand, and you will complete this. So this is also a task that you must complete it, and in next class you submit these two questions. Now other questions, additional exercises are equally important. For example, A3, question number A3, very important. A hammer of mass 500 gram. Okay. Now we will solve question number A3. Earlier we have solved A1, it was, the numbering is different, A1, now it is A1. Now we are solving A3. Now A3 is a hammer of mass 500 gram. Mass of hammer is given 500 gram. So first convert it into kg. So how much it will be? 0.5 kg. And moving at 5 meter per second strikes a nail. U is given 15 meter per second. Strikes a nail, stops the hammer in a very short time. Stops the hammer, it means final velocity is 0 and time is given 0.01 second. What is the force of nail on the hammer? So you have to calculate the force of nail on hammer. So as you know, the formula for calculating force is mass into acceleration. Now this can be written as mv minus u by t. So mass of hammer 0.5 kg, v is 0, u is 50. Simply substitute the value and time is 0.01 second. So if you will simplify, if you want to remove the decimals, you can write 5 into minus 50 and then it will be 0.01 into 10. So it will be minus 250 into this will be 0.1. So this can be written as 2500. So this is the force exerted by nail on the hammer. We are getting a minus sign because this is the reaction force it exerts by nail on hammer in opposite direction, retarding force. That's why we are getting a negative sign. So children, for today this much. In next class we will discuss another important topic, that is law of conservation of momentum. Law of conservation of momentum, its statement and proving, and then we have some important numericals based on it. So next class we will discuss momentum and law of conservation of momentum. Thank you.